Damian Priest got confronted by Timothy Thatcher in the parking lot, and that was what it was. And then I think, honestly, maybe the best thing on the show, because it woke everybody up, Jake Atlas versus Tommaso Ciampa. And Ciampa's back. Did we ever figure out where he'd gone, why he hadn't been on television?
Creative had nothing for him.
The other people that they can put on this fucking program, and they didn't have anything, seriously. This is not just...
That's the only explanation I was given.
Well, anyway, I felt like somebody hit me in the head with a hammer because I got to see a star. Tommaso picked the intensity of the show up. He mauled Jake Atlas. He DDT'd him 1, 2, 3. It was a perfect return, especially since he's been pressed into action to compete for the title next week when they name another new champion. And then he took the guy to the floor and kicked the shit out of him. And the referees are trying to... Did you notice? This is what Dexter Lumis ought to be. There was Tommaso Ciampa. He's a fucking psycho. He's the serial killer. He had fucking aggression and intensity, and he fucking was chaotic, and he's ripping the guy to shreds. And he's got a fucking expression on his face like, the porch light may be on, but nobody's fucking home. This is a dangerous guy. This is a fucking nutcase. Dexter Lumis is just fucking boring, and his boots are full of pudding. So anyway, then, go ahead.
Did you see the other day on Twitter, Dexter Lumis changed his profile photo to be the Travis Heckel artwork from the video we did of you visiting him in a hospital room after he...
No!
Yeah.
No!
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Dexter. I appreciate it. I'm just trying to help. But anyway, but here comes... Now, here is where we can compare and contrast. Is it odd that there were 2 weeks in a row, one on AEW, and then the next week on NXT, there's a full stretcher job? So we can compare and contrast. The stretcher came out way too quick. They strapped Jake Atlas down wrongly, but in record time on the stretcher. And we're preparing to wheel him out when Tommaso Ciampa jumps on him and DDTs him off the fucking stretcher. The same thing that they did, basically the same thing they did last week with Cody and Brody Lee, right? Here is where, if you could just take, like I told Batista that time, I said, if I could just transplant my brain in your body for a year, we could both retire. NXT had the much better in-ring performance. Tommaso Ciampa, a much better fucking psycho. He's a heel, but he's the heel that people kind of like because he's fucking nuts. Much better than Brody Lee, regardless. Not like a fucking earwig in your goddamn brain wouldn't be better than Brody Lee, but much better than Brody Lee. But the stretcher job in AEW was worlds better than this because it was real and it was well done. They had a legitimate doctor, Dr. Sampson. They took the time to stop everything down. It didn't just happen immediately like they're running a goddamn race. He wasn't bleeding out. If a guy's been beat up and possibly has a spinal injury or something like that, you don't rush it. You pick him up gently. You take the vitals. You do the whole 9 yards. Oh, they tried to rush him like he was bleeding out, and it was every second counted. Point is, AEW, real stretcher job, real doctor, done the real way, and the whole thing was a waste because the fucking heel that they did it for couldn't get heat in a goddamn microwave with a blowtorch. NXT, better in-ring performance because even though Cody was in the Brody Lee match, the stretcher angle and everything was done primarily for Brody, and Cody was the fucking corpse. So Tommaso Ciampa benefited more from the stretcher job than Brody Lee did because it's impossible to get him over with a hot air balloon. And there you go. So if we could have just had the AEW stretcher job with the NXT match. That would have been perfect. What do you think?
I thought this was really good. A great way to bring him back with some impact. Jake Atlas did a great job of getting his ass kicked. Like, he sold everything really, really well.
I don't know if he had a lot of choice in a couple of those things, whether he sold it or not, but go ahead.
And now I'm really curious where they're going to go with Ciampa. They did a good job of bringing someone who had been a regular there for a long time back after a few weeks off TV, and now I'm curious what they're going to do with him next.
Where they're going to Ciampa is to immediately put him in this goddamn garbage match they're going to have next week, but never mind. We'll get to that in a second. Mia Yim versus Shotzi Blackheart. I invoked my green hair and tank rule. It's just like teleportation. If I'm running late, I get to fast forward. Now go ahead and browbeat me incessantly like you do every time I fast forward a girl's match. And I like Mia Yim, but I'm not putting up with the girl with the fucking tank. I was afraid she'd roll over Robert Stone again.
It's not that I do it for every women's match. I'm not a big fan of Schlitzy Blitzy or whatever her name is. But if it wasn't here, I'm not trying to play spoiler. I thought it was here. It may have been later in the show. Because I lost it laughing. It's like, this can't happen again. She ran over Robert Stone again.
That's why I missed it, because I fast forwarded. I was afraid it would happen.
Robert Stone got run over again. And it was like a tight shot on him from the chest up, and all of a sudden he goes down, and there she is in that slow-moving tank yelling at him. I must admit, it's so ridiculous I started laughing. I never thought a third time he would get run over by this tank.
And the thing, it moves so slow, it's like being run over by a fucking 90-year-old man in a fucking hover-round. How can you not escape that? It's like the show. What the show we just watched, was that on SummerSlam? Oh yeah, when poor old Dominic Mysterio's mother was on the stage 100 feet away, and the heels turned and gave her a mean look, and that was supposed to be the goddamn moment of, oh my God, they're going to attack his mother, who's 100 feet away, and her feet are nailed to the stage. She can't move. There's no jeopardy if people obviously can't get to you unless you let them. Nevertheless. Anyway, William Regal announced what to do with the NXT title, and I got a few ideas for him. Next week, we are going to have to undergo, and by the way, next week may be triple bacon cheeseburger night. On Tuesday, by the way, next week, a four-way 60-minute Iron Man match. Adam Cole versus Tommaso Ciampa versus Finn Balor versus Johnny Sameface for the NXT title that has just been vacated after it was filled when it was vacated 6 weeks ago. What the fuck? Cole versus Ciampa. Cole versus Balor. Balor versus Ciampa. I could go on with those three names in different combinations. Take Johnny Sameface with his gray-haired wife and put him over in a fucking little cruiserweight match somewhere, and have these fucking two of the three of these stars, Adam Cole, Tommaso Ciampa, Finn Balor, have a goddamn match to determine the new champion. Now we've got to watch not only a three-way, but a four-way, but we have to watch it for a fucking hour? You can't make one of these matches make sense in 20 minutes, or for 20 minutes, much less an hour. And besides that, they are narrow casting to the most diehard, hardcore, devoted fan who not only likes these multiple man matches, but will sit and watch this for an hour. Here's what we found out a number of times. We found it out in 96 with Michaels and Brett, especially in Los Angeles, which was the absolute worst place to have that match. These people have the attention span of a fucking flea out there. If they don't know the match is going an hour, and the guys have a classic match, it's a big deal. Flair Steamboat, whatever the fuck. But if they know already this match is going to go an hour, then it's very hard to get them to give a flying fuck unless they make it to the last 5 minutes, because then somebody's going to win. For the first, when they know nobody is going to actually win for an hour, that's tough. And a 4-way on top of that, and with Johnny Sameface in it. What the fuck are they trying to do to us, Brian?
I don't know. I like most of those guys in the match. I'm not a big Gargano fan, but I'm not a big fan of Iron Man matches in general. I'm not a fan of multi-man matches. Hopefully it's good. I'm hopeful, considering it's Cole and Ciampa and Balor and even Gargano. I'm hopeful it'll be good. I'm hoping it should be good. I don't know if I'm hopeful. I'm hoping it'll be good.
Well, we'll see.